Welcome to 1000 PS, welcome to Austria, welcome to, more specifically, this is the Galos Pass, and we're here for the Newchurch Summit, which happens at the weekend, which is an amazing event in an absolute stunning background. Now we're here to test a variety of bikes. We've had a full week of testing, and we're just running through a couple of little quick spin verdicts. We've had the opportunity to test the new KTM Duke. This is the new 990R, and this is the new S1000R. Now, I've rode that bike in Spain, I've ridden that bike on track, and I've ridden the previous generation. I actually owned one for about 8 months because BMW kindly lent me one for 8 months. So I've got a good idea and a good understanding of that bike. And the Duke 990R, I've ridden before, and I've ridden the standard bike. So I've got a good understanding and a good idea of what to expect. But what makes 1000 PS a little bit different is, rather than just kind of having an estimate or a guess, we actually get both bikes together and find some amazing roads like this Galos Pass and just have a couple of days of blasting up and down this pass, leaving loads of black lines for the locals to follow. And we've had a good selection of riders as well. So there's not just me riding it, we've got a lot of the crew from 1000 PS who range in a variety of experiences and knowledge, like Martin Bauer, who really sets the bar really high. In terms of spec, it's kind of interesting to see both bikes because they're both kind of aiming at a similar audience, I would guess, because we've got a parallel twin, naked bike, fully adjustable suspension, 128-ish horsepower there or thereabouts. Really fun, really exciting, 103 newton meters of torque, 76 foot-pound of torque. And then on the BMW side is essentially a naked version of their sports bike with the S1000RR. We're looking at just shy of 170 horsepower and 84 foot-pounds of torque from that inline 4. In terms of pricing, the KTM starts at 12,499 and the BMW starts at 13,840. But as usual with BMW, you need to add a few more accessories. So we've got the M package, we've got different rider aids, we've got the Aquaprofic exhaust, we've got the SOS, we've got a lot of accessories. Add all that together and you're getting close to £20,000, which is a lot of money for a naked bike. But the standard bike does start at 13,840 compared to 12.5 for the KTM. In terms of suspension, 48 millimeters, fully adjustable WP Apex suspension. This has got the semi-active electronic suspension from BMW because we've got the full dynamic package. Rear shock, WP, manually adjustable, again electronic on the BMW. So in some ways they are very similar and in some ways they are very different, but it was interesting to compare the two. I kind of almost knew what to expect from the BMW because I've ridden it so many times before and the previous model. For this year they've shortened the throttle kind of delivery, they shortened the final drive. It wasn't a massive change, but it was significant changes to the S1000 when they last made the alterations. As you would expect from BMW, a full suite of rider aids which are all lean sensitive ABS, lean sensitive traction control, engine brake strategies, you name it, it's got it, including the keyless ignition. But equally, so is the KTM. That's fully equipped with slide control, wheelie control, launch control, cruise control, and, which more importantly for a lot of people, this new touchscreen dash, which is really simple and easy to use. I've always really praised the BMW dash. I think that's one of the best dashes on the market. It's a similar dash that you find on the GS and other BMW models. It's pretty simple, it's pretty easy to use, and I think it's very simplistic. But now KTM arrived with this new touchscreen, and whoa, it's running the BMW close in its terms of intuitive and simplistic and ease of use. It's all touchscreen, you can just operate it like an iPad or an iPhone. And even though the actual dash isn't in English, I can still turn down the wheelie control, change the ABS to Supermoto, and you've got the built-in navigation, which I've used on other KTM models. It's really simple and easy to use. So in terms of dash, then it might be an actual 1-0 win for the KTM. In terms of power and torque and engine, then it's almost a 1-1 draw, because that wins on the dash, but the BM's got more power, it's got more drive, it's got more torque, it's got more over rev, it's a little bit more exciting and a little bit more rewarding. So we're at stablemate so far. In terms of looks and appeal, well, that's a real difficult one, because that comes down to your personal opinion. I know a lot of people don't like this KTM aggressive styling and don't like that kind of bug-eyed look. But if you remove all the badges of that KTM, it's still a KTM. If you remove all the badges of the BMW, it could be almost anything. It's almost like a generic naked bike. But the quality of the BMW is really top end, as you would expect for a bike that, once you add a load of accessories, can get close to £20,000. In terms of handling and how they feel, that's really, really different. Because when you change the modes on the BMW, it changes the overall character of the bike. So when you're in a specific road mode, then you'll have specific road electronics, rider aids and power delivery. But it also changes the suspension. So it makes it a little bit plusher and a little bit softer. Yesterday, we hit some really bumpy, kind of gnarly, what we would refer to as B roads back in the UK. Flicked into that road mode, felt easier, felt plusher, felt softer, and it really coped with those bumps well. And then we get onto these beautiful hairpins here, and it's like racetrack quality tarmac. Then we can go into Dynamic and Dynamic Pro. With the KTM, the suspension is manually adjustable. So what you see is what you get. So if you're riding a really bumpy, uneven road like a B road we'd have in the UK, then it's a little bit too harsh and a little bit too firm. And it's a bit too jolty, and it's kind of like a little bit too rigid. But then when you ride it on these beautiful roads here, it actually just comes into its own. It's really light, it's really agile, and it carries corner speed, and it gives you confidence. And it's like a big playful toy that just encourages you to do things that the local police say you shouldn't. It's kind of a little bit difficult to compare the two, because the BMW is so much more of a bike in so many different scenarios because of that rider aids that change the electronic suspension, where the KTM is a little bit more basic. But generally speaking, that suspension works for 85% of the time. The only time it doesn't work is really, really low speeds, and if you're not kind of aggressive enough. It's quite rigid. It feels like a sports bike almost with sit-up bars. It's quite firm, but you can open it up, you can soften it off, you can make it a bit accessible and make it a little bit more usable. Where the BMW feels, despite nearly having 170 horsepower, way more than the KTM, almost feels a little bit more accessible and easier. Interestingly, both bikes come with cruise control. Interestingly, both bikes are reasonably comfortable. The BM is a little bit more comfortable, and that would be the bike that I would choose if I wanted to throw out some miles and ride from here in Austria back over to Germany. Interestingly, on the BMW is a really good point that Martin Bauer picked up on me, is that the steering damper is quite stiff. The geometry and the kind of size of the bike is very much like the sports bike version, and BMW have just put straight bars on it. So the wheelbase is quite short. It's quite an aggressive rake and trail and stance. And I think that BMW may have added a slightly stiffer than expected steering damper just to give it a little bit more stability, because it's got so much more power. But you notice that on transitions when you're going through these endless hairpins here in Austria, that it's just a little bit slower to steer, especially when you compare it to the KTM. The KTM is playful, it's enjoyable, it's toy-like. It's kind of really interesting, because when you ride the KTM, it's kind of a little bit strange in that you get on it, you love the dash, you play with the touchscreen, you turn the anti-wheelie off, you have a little bit of slide control, you change the throttle delivery, and you kind of create your bike, which is this playful, wheelie, slidey, great fun, loads of torque, loads of drive, enjoyable fun bike. When you ride the BMW, you're kind of using that power and using that torque and using it more like a powerful sports touring naked bike, if that makes any sense. It kind of, you ride it in a different way, in a different style. Sure, it's got loads of power, and sure, it's got loads of grunt, and it really drives hard up these really tight hairpin steep inclines. It's got so much grunt and so much drive, and it sounds really good. But the KTM is more playful and kind of more enjoyable. So to come up with a verdict, which would I choose, which would I buy, which would I ride? That's a really difficult one. Because if money was no object and both bikes were the same price, then I would prefer the BMW. Because I kind of like the mechanical feel of it, I like the smoothness of that inline four, I like the extra power, nearly 170 horsepower, and I love the fact that I can change the mode, which changes the suspension characteristics. I can go from kind of taking it reasonably steady, put the cruise control on, and bat out a few hundred miles down an autobahn in reasonable comfort on a naked bike, and equally, I can take that on track, and I know it performs really well. Okay, the steering is a little bit stiff, and it is a bit big and a little bit heavier than the KTM. The KTM is this playful, joyful, just hooligan tool. If I was going to ride a bike for an afternoon, then I would probably choose the KTM because that's the most rewarding and the most enjoyable. But I don't know if I could put up with the looks and the styling. I don't know if I want to open my garage door and see that over the BMW. So the BMW is the bike that I would choose, but this is the big problem. And this has always been, I wouldn't say a problem, but kind of like the issue with BMWs, is that the base price is attractive at 13,840. But then once you start to add the accessories, once you start to add everything that you want to deliver that package, it's quite easy to get to 17, 18, 19,000 pounds. Is it worth that much over the KTM, which is 12,499? That's the big question. It'd be interesting to see your comments below. Money no object, for me, I would go for BMW. Want to ride this afternoon and just have some fun? It would be the KTM. Which bike would I want for 6 months? It would be the BMW. Which bike would I spend my own money on? That's the big one. Looking forward to seeing your comments and discussions below. Is it overpriced or is it worth the money? Which one would you go if money was no object, and which one would you choose if it was your money? Hope you've enjoyed our video. It's been absolutely awesome on this amazing road, in this amazing scenario, in this amazing company with some great riders, to just get out here and have some fun and put the two bikes head to head. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and I shall see you on the next one.